Welcome to Scatterbrained, a weekly subpod of mind controllers, and I'm your host, Brandon Craw. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about Dungeons of Hinterberg, this small indie game that I've been enjoying a lot. Unfortunately, Joe is unable to make it today. We had some last-minute scheduling conflicts, so you're just going to hear me chat. It'll be a shorter pod. Just wanted to inform everyone of the games I've been playing this week. So, with that being said, let me dive right into it. The main game I've been playing for the past week is Dungeons of Hinterberg. Now, this game is a indie game. It was developed by Microbird Games, Microbird GmbH. Not sure what that last acronym is, but yeah, they're a smaller developer. I checked out their website. I think this might be the only game they've developed so far, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly the size of the team either, but I'm really enjoying this game. Having a lot of fun with it. If anyone hasn't played it yet or checked it out, it is on Game Pass, so if you are subscribed to that, then go ahead and download it and see if you're into it or not. But let me give you a quick rundown of what the game is. So this is an action-adventure game with some slight platforming elements, and you play as Fraulein Luisa. I think that name is in another language, and I'm a bit unfamiliar with it, but you play as Fraulein Luisa, and she is this person trying to get away from the mundane life as a junior in a law firm. So she's taking this vacation to, I believe it's just called Hinterberg, which is this town in which these dungeons and monsters just randomly started popping up and magic started existing. It seems like over the years, this has turned into somewhat of a vacation spot where people pay to go and stay in this small town and go into these dungeons and hunt the monsters. But unfortunately, I think these monsters can still hurt you back, so they do advise like some caution while you're going through the dungeons. But yeah, that's kind of the summary of the story here. When you first enter the town, they're showing you around and you do a dungeon, and it's like an introductory dungeon, and then an earthquake occurs. And it seems like these earthquakes, I haven't played too far into the game, so I'm not sure what ends up happening with the earthquakes, but they seem kind of like some sort of message that something bigger is occurring. There might be some monster thing happening behind the scenes, and I think we're going to eventually solve the mystery of these earthquakes here. But yeah, during your first dungeon encounter, an earthquake occurs, chaos kind of breaks loose, but then you eventually get out. So the game itself follows this morning, afternoon, evening, and then nighttime cycle. And during the afternoon and evening cycles, you kind of choose what to do, where to go, like to adventure during the day. And in the evening, you have some like socialization options. So during the day, you choose an area to explore. And these areas are like smaller contained open worlds that are littered with these monsters, dungeons, and other little secrets like treasure chests. And in the world, you have magic that you have to unlock by finding the skill shrines in each area. So once you do that, then you get access to the magic, and you get to use that magic kind of to interact with the world. So for example, there's this like snowy mountainous region, and one of the magics kind of summons a snowboard for you, which you can then use to kind of traverse around the world. And you could also still use that snowboard in combat, which I found pretty unique. The combat itself, it's like a third-person action, so it's not turn-based, so you're kind of moving around, you're hacking and slashing, dodging, and then you could cast these magic spells you unlock, or you could do these like stronger attacks that have a cooldown. And I did find the combat like to be pretty satisfying once you unlock all of these different elements. So the main core gameplay loop has you exploring this outer world and then finding these dungeons that are placed throughout these different regions. So you usually get to them by, I don't know, climbing up a mountain or solving some small like traversal puzzle to unlock the entrance to the dungeon. But in each of these dungeons are like contained either linear caves or towns that have their own unique puzzle that you need to solve, or some other sort of mechanic that you need to utilize in order to get through the dungeon. One of the most nifty ones I found was like this minecart system in which you had to determine like which pathway to take on the minecart in order to reach the end. And usually the end of these dungeons culminate with like a harder monster fight. I hesitate to say boss fight because it doesn't, like a boss fight, a health bar doesn't pop up. They're usually just stronger monsters that require a bit more tactics and speed and like reaction time. And once you defeat those monsters, you get a reward, usually in a treasure chest, and then you get this stamp that you put in your little stamp adventure book that then allows you to not only show that you completed the dungeon, but then allows you to exit the dungeon. I believe so far they don't know how these who set these portals up in this world, but yeah, they have like these guidelines that must be followed. So I feel like we'll eventually get to there and learn who created all of this and why it's there. Yeah, so after you exit the dungeon, that usually ends like the day for you. So then you go into the evening time. And in the evening, you're just placed into the town and you get to choose like who to hang out with. So the game has like these different socialization skills and that need to be leveled up. Those are renown, amusement, familiarity, and relaxation. And there are certain rewards for like leveling up these different social skills. And there are certain rewards for choosing who you want to hang out with. The people you hang out with, you see them on your town map. You also have like a log of them showing which people you can interact with. And then the rewards you get for interacting with them and leveling up your like social level with those players. So I believe the game is kind of incentivizing you to socialize with different people because I see some core gameplay elements that are unlocked if you level up your socialization with like this photographer, for example. You unlock the camera mode, or there was this kind of like these teens who just like to hang out, and when you level up with them, level up the socialization skills with them, they will give you this key that you can use to unlock the locked chests throughout the world. So yes, you could just like hang out with one or two people, but I believe the game really wants you to just get to know the town and get to know the people there, which I thought was also a very cool mechanic. And after the evening ends, you then get to go back to your room, and then it looks like there are some options there of things to do, whether you could like read a book or watch TV, but every time I've tried that so far, it just says that I'd be too tired, so I need to go to sleep instead of like stay up and do these extra activities. I'm sure that's something that's going to be unlocked later on. But overall, I'm having a great time with the game. I feel like the game is oddly aware of itself in that it has a lot of commentary about how kind of crazy it is that a magical world and like monsters just popped up out of nowhere. There's a bit of empathy going on from the main character when you first like start the game, because the character is asking, do we know if these monsters are sentient or not? Like, are we going to hurt them? Are we hurting them by doing this? And like, do they care? Or I feel terrible for like just killing these creatures. And then the game comments like, there have been a bunch of tests that have been run and it shows no sign of sentience or memory. And these monsters will just continuously respond and like keep on attacking you, which is kind of crazy. And there's even commentary from the locals who are living there talking about how all these tourists have like moved in and they're kind of taking over their town and not really valuing who they are as locals. They just kind of see them as more employees for this tourist attraction instead of actually as people. They talk about how they're kind of ruining their economy and talking about how they treat them rather poorly. So instead of like going up to them and talking to them about their life there, they'll just ask them where the nearest restroom is, for example. And I found a lot of that like metacognitive commentary to be kind of refreshing to see in a game. I normally don't see stuff like that in action adventure video games. It's usually just, the hero needs to save the world. So I really appreciated this unique take on the game. Overall, definitely going to keep playing this game. I've really, really enjoyed it. And it's kind of a shorter game. I saw it takes like maybe 12 hours to complete the main story. Maybe double that to get all the achievements. Personally, I'm not too much of an achievement hunter, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing that, but I'm excited to see where the story goes and excited to keep on playing through the dungeons because the core gameplay loop has absolutely hooked me. And other than that, Joe and I played a bit of the Riot's fighting game open alpha, or maybe it was a closed alpha. I'm not sure. Joe got a key, alpha key, and then it came with extra keys, so then he sent me one. And we were able to play a bit of 2XKO, which is the Riot created fighting game. And this is like a tag team fighting game in which you could either play as yourself, like play by yourself and select two different characters and tag them out like while you're fighting your opponent and switch between them. Or you can play with a partner, which is what I did with Joe on Sunday. And we would each kind of take turns fighting and then tagging out and fighting the opponent. And this is my first time really like trying to get into a fighting game. And I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with Joe. I think that companionship and like camaraderie of like both of us like trying to fight someone is maybe the missing link I needed to get into a fighting game. And I definitely want to keep on playing this. I know the beta is going to end, or the alpha is going to end relatively soon after this comes out, but I'm thinking maybe playing it more with Joe during the full release. Yeah, that's if he's down, and I'm sure he will be. I'm really excited to check that out. Yeah, and I think that does it for the games that I've been playing this week. There's just one little piece of news information I wanted to touch on because it was kind of pertinent to one of Joe's favorite games from last year, and that is the fact that Tango Dreamworks was bought by PUBG owners Krafton. Now, Tango Dreamworks created the pretty hit indie game Hi-Fi Rush last year that had like kind of a similar art style to Dungeons of Hinterberg, of just like this cel-shaded kind of comic booky color popping style. And it was a rhythm-based game, action adventure, and I know Joe really liked it. He resonated with the game. I believe it sold pretty well, and yet for some reason the development studio was shut down and just closed. So to see that it was actually revived, or it will hopefully be revived by Krafton, and another Hi-Fi Rush game is in the works, was pretty heartwarming. And it was a nice contrast to a lot of these layoffs that keep on occurring industry-wide. So really appreciated that this occurred this week. It was a nice little win amongst everything else. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate you guys listening to. Like I said, this was a shorter one. We had some scheduling conflicts, so hopefully next week we'll be back on track. But after that, I'm going to be going on a 2-week vacation. So yeah, I appreciate you all. Take good care of yourselves. Show some love to yourself. And I don't know, tell someone you appreciate them if you haven't done so in a bit. Just like I appreciate you all. So I'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody. See you later.